kita bersihkan, kita tegakkan, kita akan pokoknya membela kepentingan rakyat.
Dalam kasus korupsi pengadaan LNG di Pertamina, KPK juga telah menetapkan mantan Direktur Utama Pertamina, Karen Agustiawan, sebagai tersangka dan Karen telah divonis 9 tahun penjara dan denda 500.
Have you ever considered why corruption can occur in a company as big as Pertamina? What is wrong with its governance? Recently, the public was shocked by the alleged corruption in Pertamina, which is said to have caused the state to lose up to 193 trillion rupiah. Moreover, the House of Representatives, DPR, said the potential state losses could reach 1 quadrillion rupiah if all impacts are calculated.
This is just the tip of the iceberg, a governance problem that has not been addressed at the root for years. Since the 70s, corrupt practices in Pertamina have continued to occur. But every time there's a case, it's just a temporary fix, never a major reform. Well, one of the most severe problems is weak supervision. Internal audits and external supervision have not been able to detect problems from the start. So either the supervision is failing, or is it deliberately failing? Then, what makes it worse is that all this seems to be covered up. The public only found out when the case exploded. Before that, it was dark. In fact, as a state-owned company with full control over fuel, Pertamina should be very transparent.
If this continues, it will not only affect the people, but also foreign investors. Who would want to invest in a company that is not transparent? So what should it do?
Have you ever heard of the term good corporate governance, or GCG? Well, good corporate governance is a system that regulates and controls the relationship between various parties in the company, including shareholders, the board of directors, and other stakeholders, to realize transparency, accountability, responsibility, independence, and equality in running the company. To implement good governance, there must be 5 principles. Transparency. All important information must be disclosed to the public. Accountability. Everyone must be accountable for their work. Responsibility. Obey the law and care for the social environment. Independence. Decisions must be objective, free from pressure from certain parties. Justice. All parties are treated equally and fairly. In a good corporate governance system, or good corporate governance, the role of the Board of Commissioners and the Audit Committee is very important. Both are at the forefront of supervising the running of the company. Unfortunately, Pertamina's corruption case, which cost the state trillions of rupiah, shows that this supervisory function has not run optimally. Let's start with the Board of Commissioners. The Board of Commissioners is a corporate organ tasked with supervising the policies and performance of the Board of Directors. In a large company like Pertamina, the effectiveness of the Board of Commissioners is crucial. To maximize its function, the Board of Commissioners must have the right structure and composition. Its members should come from various fields of expertise: finance, risk, legal, operational. At least 30% of them should be independent. The goal? To keep oversight objective and intervention-free. Their duties include approving the company's long-term plans, monitoring regulatory compliance, and evaluating the alignment of policies with the company's vision and mission. Ideally, they also have a commissioner charter as a reference for their work, ethics, and limits of authority. Now, let's move on to the Audit Committee. The Audit Committee is the part of the Board of Commissioners that focuses on financial oversight and risk management. They act as a liaison between the board, management, and auditors. The main roles of the Audit Committee include reviewing financial statements and ensuring their accuracy, evaluating the effectiveness of the internal control system, monitoring the results of internal and external audits, follow up on violations, and encourage corrective action. They should also meet regularly, at least 4 times a year, to discuss audit results and strategic issues. This relationship between the Board of Commissioners and the Audit Committee should be synergistic. The Audit Committee provides in-depth analysis of financial and operational risks, while the BOC uses this information to make strategic decisions. So, what if all this is not done? Yes, we have seen the consequences in the case of Pertamina. Weak oversight, both from the Board of Commissioners and the Audit Committee, opens up opportunities for corruption such as import manipulation, fuel tampering, and contract markups. If governance principles are implemented, cases like this can be prevented. For example, the Audit Committee should verify fuel procurement contracts, and the Board of Commissioners needs to oversee pricing and distribution policies regularly. A whistleblowing system is also very important. A whistleblowing system should be provided and confidentiality guaranteed. This will serve as a tool for early detection of any violations. Well, Pertamina has a very large and complex organizational structure. There are subholdings, there are subsidiaries. On paper, this is cool, because the tasks are more specific, the responsibilities are clearer, and it should be, yes, more accountable. But in reality, this oversized structure can backfire. Why? Because the supervision becomes uneven. The functions that should be carried out by the Board of Commissioners and the Audit Committee, not all of them work optimally. In the end, loopholes appear, loopholes that can be used for, well, let's call it rogue practices. Formally, Pertamina has an internal control system. There is an audit committee, there is a board of commissioners, and there are supervisory procedures. Complete. And when corruption cases started surfacing, they said they were ready to be open, ready to be audited by the KPK, BPK, and even independent institutions. Wow, sounds convincing, right? Unfortunately, the practice on the ground is not that pretty. There's a lot of oversight that doesn't work. Data manipulation? You can. Arrange tenders? It's also possible. Collusion? Yes, it's no secret. This is called a moral hazard. When people feel safe committing corruption because they know the supervision is weak and the chances of getting caught are very small. In the end, important decisions are made without transparency, without accountability, and are easily misused. This is why governance and supervision must be strengthened, especially in an SOE as big as Pertamina. Because if there is no real reform, big does not mean clean. The corruption that occurred at Pertamina for 5 consecutive years was not a sudden event, you know. There are many contributing factors, and they all come from within the company itself. First, the Board of Commissioners. By law, they are obliged to oversee the policies and performance of the Board of Directors. But in reality, they failed to detect various corrupt practices, from suspicious oil imports, contract markups, to fuel tampering. Second, the Audit Committee and Internal Control System. They are supposed to be the guardrails against irregular transactions. But in reality, many procurements and tenders are leaked without strict supervision. Just imagine. Weak supervision makes price manipulation and collusion continue until the country loses trillions of rupiah. The third problem is political intervention. Many strategic positions, such as commissioners and directors, are chosen not because they are competent, but because they are close. The result? They are not independent and dare not control the performance of the directors. Now, add to that a permissive organizational culture. You know you're doing something wrong, but there are no sanctions. In the end, people are even more courageous to cheat. Corruption in Pertamina is not just a matter of losing state money. The impact is much broader and deeper. The losses incurred are estimated to reach 193 trillion rupiah, and some even mention the potential loss of up to 1 quadrillion rupiah. This is certainly not a small number and shows that governance issues are not trivial. First, strengthen governance. The Board of Commissioners, Audit Committee, and Internal Control System must work independently, professionally, and not just a formality. Second, external audits by institutions such as the KPK, BPK, and independent auditors must be carried out regularly and transparently. Third, structural reform. Appointments of strategic officials should be made based on competence, not political closeness. Fourth, consistent law enforcement. Every perpetrator of corruption, whether from within the company or outside, must be given strict sanctions. Corrupted assets must be returned to the state. Fifth, revamping corporate culture. It is necessary to build a safe violation reporting system, as well as protection for whistleblowers. And finally, digitalization. Business processes from procurement to reporting must be based on a digital system that is transparent and can be monitored by the public.
GCG Good Corporate Governance is not just a slogan. It's a system that should work in every company, especially in a state-owned enterprise as big as Pertamina. From transparency, accountability, to the courage to be responsible and fair. If governance goes well, we not only prevent corruption, we also build public trust, maintain the company's good name, and ensure that the nation's energy future remains bright. Because a great company is not measured by how many assets it has, but by how strong its integrity is maintained. Let's build a cleaner future together.